I never thought I'd become the kind of woman who hides cameras in her own home. I used to think that kind of paranoia belonged to people who read too many thrillers or had real trust issues. But life has a way of surprising you. Sometimes in beautiful ways. And sometimes in ways that make your stomach twist and your skin crawl. It all began on a Thursday. That's important because Thursdays used to be our us day. No phones, no meetings, no distractions, just me and him, Nick. Even the name used to make me smile. There was a time I would wait all day just to hear the sound of his key turning in the lock. But that Thursday, it was different. He came home late. Really late. I was curled up on the couch with a blanket and a half-empty bottle of wine, the kind of scene you see in sad romance movies. I'd made dinner. Chicken marsala, his favorite. It sat cold on the table. The candles burned down. My heart did too. When he finally walked through the door, he didn't even notice. "Long day at work," he mumbled, giving me a forehead kiss. He didn't even make eye contact. I could feel it, that emotional distance. Like I was talking to a stranger in his skin. But it wasn't just the distance. It was the smell. Not like sweat or smoke or his usual aftershave. No. It was cheap perfume. The kind you don't forget. Sweet, synthetic, and clinging to his shirt like guilt. I didn't say anything that night. Smiled. He nodded. I played the part of the supportive girlfriend. But something broke inside me. And when I break, I don't fall apart. Calculate. You see, I'm not the type to scream or throw things. I don't believe in scenes. Believe in facts. And confirmation. And control. My name is Serena. I'm not crazy. I'm careful. The next morning he left early. Said he had a client breakfast. He barely touched the coffee I made. He barely touched me. I stood in the doorway in my robe, watching his car disappear down the street, and that was the moment I decided. If he was hiding something, I would find it. That night, while he snored beside me like a man with a clean conscience, I lay in the dark with my phone glowing, searching, researching, comparing, micro cameras, hidden audio recorders, motion sensors, spy software. It's amazing what the internet offers once you start looking. Cameras small enough to fit into a screw head. USB chargers with real-time feeds. Smoke detectors with full HD lenses. All legal. All available. All just a click away. I ordered 6 different devices. Express delivery. While I waited for them to arrive, I started mapping out where I'd place them. Not like a criminal. More like a director planning the shots for her film. I knew our apartment better than anyone. I knew where he sat, where he worked, where he talked on the phone. I even knew the echo spots where sound carried best. I called out sick from work to prep. Told Nick I had a fever. He barely blinked. While he was out, I cleaned. Reorganized. Spring cleaning, I told him. But really I was planting. Carefully, strategically. One camera in the hallway smoke detector. Another in a new picture frame on the mantel. A third inside a desk lamp in his office nook. A fake plant with a hidden mic. A USB charger that streamed to my laptop in real time. By the time I was done, our apartment looked exactly the same. And yet nothing was the same. Tested everything. Once. 3 times. The feed was clean. Clear. Almost too clear. It felt surreal watching my own living room from my laptop, like I was spying on a stranger's life. And then I waited. Day 1, nothing. He came home, dropped his bag, kissed my cheek, showered. He scrolled his phone with his back turned to me most of the evening. Didn't look guilty. Didn't look excited. Just tired. Day 2, still nothing. He worked late again. Said he was helping a colleague with a presentation. Came home with takeout and a decent excuse. I almost felt stupid. Like I'd overreacted. Maybe I was losing it. Maybe I'd let one weird night and a whiff of perfume push me over the edge. But I didn't uninstall the cameras. And on day 3 everything changed. It was just after 2 p.m. I was working from home, headphones in, when I saw the motion alert pop up on my laptop screen. It was from the living room camera. Clicked it. Nick walked in. But he wasn't alone. He was laughing. Laughing in a way I hadn't seen in months. That deep, boyish kind of laugh that used to be mine. The woman with him was petite, blonde, bright red lipstick, a long beige coat and heels too high for the weather. She looked out of place in our living room, like a glitch in the matrix, like someone had copied and pasted her into my world. She sat on our couch, my couch, and kicked off her shoes. Nick poured her wine from the bottle I'd bought 2 nights ago. They clinked glasses, froze. The audio feed clicked on. It was faint but clear enough. Her voice was playful, teasing. She called him Nicky. He hated that nickname. Except, apparently, when it came from her lips. I listened for exactly 6 minutes and 42 seconds before I shut the laptop. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat in silence. 'Cause now I knew. And when you know something for certain, when there's no more guessing, no more doubt, that's when you gain power. I made a folder on my desktop called Project Cleanse. Inside it I saved the clip. Labeled it with the date, time, and a note. Phase 1 entry. I didn't tell anyone. Not my sister. Not my friends. Not even Tara, my closest confidant. 'Cause when you move in silence, you control the noise. That night, Nick came home at 6:15 p.m. said he was in meetings all day. Kissed me like he meant it. He even complimented my cooking. New recipe, he asked. Smiled. Just something I threw together. He had no idea I'd watched him laugh with another woman 5 hours earlier. He had no idea I had cameras recording every inch of his betrayal. But I wasn't going to confront him. Not yet. 'Cause I had a better idea. Let him think I was clueless. Let him keep lying. Let him dig himself deeper. The more rope he had, the tighter I could pull it when the time came. I added more files to the Project Cleanse folder that week. Clips of secret phone calls in the hallway. Snippets of flirty texts captured from screen reflections. Conversations that started with, "She has no idea," and ended with plans for future weekends when I'd be busy. Each file, each recording was a brick. I was building something. Not a case. Trap. And soon he would walk right into it. The first time I saw them kiss, it didn't hurt the way I thought it would. I wasn't shocked. Not even angry. It felt more like watching a bad movie you've already read spoilers for. You know the betrayal is coming. You just wait for it to play out frame by frame. It happened on a Monday. 1:38 p.m. He brought her back again, her, whose name I hadn't heard yet. They didn't speak much this time. No whine. No flirty chatter. It was quick. Clinical. They kissed the moment they walked in, like they were stealing time from something sacred. Like they were hiding from something. It was strange how I noticed the details. Her chipped nail polish. His hand on her lower back. The exact way he used to touch me when we first started dating. How he smiled with his eyes closed, like he was finally at peace. I watched the whole thing from a tiny square on my screen. Paused it when I needed to breathe. Rewound it when I needed to be sure. Saved it under Phase 2, contact. That night, I hugged him tighter when he came home. Told him I missed him. Asked him to watch a movie with me. He looked surprised. Maybe even guilty. But he said yes. He sat on the couch, eating popcorn I made, laughing at a romantic comedy while my laptop upstairs held a video of him groping another woman in the exact spot he now rested his feet. You might think I'm cruel. Cold maybe. But no, I'm just awake now. I started noticing everything. Every twitch. Every lie tucked between words. Like how he'd suddenly started using new cologne. One I hadn't bought. How he changed his phone password from our anniversary to something random. How he turned his screen away when texting, even though he never used to care. I didn't confront him. Not once. Instead, I started documenting everything. Every detail went into my journal. Not online, physical. Pen and paper. Tucked beneath the floorboard under my side of the bed. The more I observed, the more I saw it clearly. This wasn't just an affair. This was calculated. Nick was testing how far he could go before I noticed. He wasn't just cheating. He was erasing me. Slowly. Strategically. He started canceling plans. Started calling me babe instead of Serena. Less personal. More generic. He stopped asking about my work, my friends, my life, like I was becoming a piece of furniture in his story. One night I couldn't sleep. I went into his home office, just to think, just to sit. I opened his laptop. It wasn't locked. He always used to lock it. Felt like a dare. So I clicked. There were no emails. Nothing in the downloads. Nothing in the photos. But in his trash folder. A deleted document. Prenup and draft.docs. My chest tightened. Clicked it open. It was a prenup. Not signed. Just drafted. And it wasn't written in legal language. It was a rough plan, like a personal outline. Notes like, ask for 6-month post-marriage clause. Get out clean. Protect investments. Don't merge accounts. Make sure she doesn't touch apartment pre-owned. And then the last line. She's too naive to question it. Just charm her through it. My vision blurred. I wasn't naive. I was in love. There's a difference. But that line, that one sentence, it changed something in me. It lit a switch I hadn't felt before. Not just pain. Not just betrayal. Purpose. This wasn't just a man cheating on his girlfriend. This was a man plotting a future with me, only to discard me once it served him. It wasn't enough to leave him. Well, I needed to make him see me, feel me, remember me. So I started crafting a new plan. A bigger one. I began pretending even harder. The perfect partner. Supportive. Forgiving. I started suggesting marriage. Do you ever think about our wedding? Ask. He'd smile. All the time, babe. Liar. I offered to handle more bills. Let me take care of rent this month, you're so busy. He let me. I bought matching bathrobes. I cooked. I laughed at his jokes. I scheduled a couple's photo shoot. He called me perfect. It was easy for him to lie when he thought I didn't know. It was even easier for me to pretend when I did. The cameras were still rolling every day. But I wanted more than footage. I wanted her name. So one day I followed him. He said he had a meeting in Midtown. Took his messenger bag. Wore a navy suit. Kissed me on the forehead like usual. I waited 15 minutes. Then grabbed my coat and called a car. I had installed a GPS tracker in his bag. A tiny tile that synced to my phone. He stopped at a small restaurant downtown. Cozy. Tucked between two boutiques. I waited across the street behind a cafe window, sipping cold coffee and watching through the reflection. She showed up 20 minutes later. Same woman. Blonde. Red lips. New coat. They kissed. Not on the cheek. Not like friends. Like lovers. They sat inside for an hour. Took photos. Zoomed in on their faces. Her earrings. His watch. Her hand on his leg. When they left, I followed discreetly. They walked hand in hand into a hotel 4 blocks away. I didn't go inside. I didn't need to. That night I cooked him dinner. Asked how his meeting went. Boring as hell, he said, unbuttoning his shirt. I missed you, I whispered, wrapping my arms around him. He smiled. I didn't. But he couldn't tell. The next morning while he showered, I copied the hotel bill from his wallet. Room 302. April 4th. 1:52 p.m. I cross-checked the time with my camera footage. That same hour I had a clip of him texting me. In a meeting, babe, miss you too. I saved it all. Photos. Video. Location. I created a new folder. Phase 3, Assembly. This was no longer just about revenge. This was about control. About finishing a story the right way, my way. But I knew I had to be smart. I had to be quiet. Because Nick wasn't just careless. He was clever. Charming. He could flip any situation. Gaslight anyone. That's what scared me most. He didn't think I was capable of fighting back. And that was my greatest weapon. So I kept collecting. Every lie. Every whisper. Every fake, I love you. I built a digital diary of deceit. Organized. Time-stamped. Backed up twice. I even started scripting how I'd release it, when the time was right. I wasn't sure what that moment would look like yet, but I would know it when I saw it. And when it came, he'd never see it coming. People think revenge is loud. They imagine screaming matches, broken plates, public meltdowns. But that's not the kind of revenge I wanted. I wanted mine to be clean, silent, surgical. The kind that doesn't just ruin a man. It rewires the way he thinks. The kind that makes him doubt every moment he thought he was in control. And that meant being patient. Every morning, I woke up next to Nick with a smile on my face and a secret in my pocket. I made him coffee. I packed his gym bag. I laid out his tie. Kissed him goodbye. And the second he left, I checked the feeds. By now I had hours of footage. Him with her. Her name was Kendra. I finally caught it on a voicemail she left while he was in the shower. Her voice was high and sweet, like melted sugar, with a little too much confidence. She called him my king. Said she missed his hands. Said she hated that he still had to go home to the other one. I was the other one. And I saved that voicemail. Labeled it. Phase 4, communication. At this point I had everything I needed to destroy him. But I wasn't done. I wanted him to confess. I wanted to create a scenario so tight, so perfectly scripted, that he would unravel himself without ever knowing I'd set the stage. So I changed gears. I became unpredictable. I stopped texting him during the day. Stopped asking when he'd be home. Stopped waiting at the door with dinner. Instead, I started going out. I left lipstick on wine glasses that weren't mine. I came home late, smelling of perfume he didn't recognize. I started locking my phone. I giggled at texts from no one. It drove him insane. He tried to play it cool at first. Having fun lately? He'd ask casual. Oh, just some girl nights, I'd reply breezy. But he started snooping, checking my purse, glancing at my phone over my shoulder. He even followed me one night when I went for drinks with Tara. Yes, I knew he was tailing me. I saw his car from the bar window. I waved. He was losing control and he knew it. Men like Nick can dish it out, but they can't take it. The day after that, he took me to brunch. It was supposed to be romantic. French toast. Fresh flowers on the table. He even held my hand like he used to. I've been thinking, he said over coffee. We should take a trip. Just the two of us. And blinked. A trip? Yeah. Somewhere quiet. Disconnect a little. Maybe the lake house. The lake house. His family's cabin. No cell service. No internet. Just him, me. And the perfect place to isolate someone completely. That's when I knew something was off. He didn't just want to get away. He wanted to corner me. He could feel the shift, the slipping. He didn't know what I knew, but he could feel the storm coming. And he wanted to control the damage. So I said yes. Of course I said yes. But not before I set up my own plan. That week I backed up every file I had, to 2 separate cloud accounts and 1 encrypted USB drive. I stored the USB in the lining of my travel bag. I also left an envelope with Tara. Inside was a letter. And the password to the backup folder. It read, "If anything happens to me at the lake house, give this to the police and send it to every contact in my inbox. Don't ask questions. Just do it." I didn't tell her why. I didn't need to. She didn't open it. Just looked me in the eye and said, "You good?" He nodded. "Then go ruin him." Friday came. We packed. He smiled the whole drive like nothing was wrong. Held my hand. Played our old playlist. Said things like, "Feels good to get away," and "We needed this." I watched him carefully. Every word. Every glance. At one point he said, "You're quiet." Smiled. Just soaking it in. We got to the cabin around 4 p.m. It was peaceful. Too peaceful. The kind of silence that makes you notice every creak in the floorboards. He poured wine while I unpacked. Told me to relax, unwind, enjoy. But I saw the way he watched me. Like he was waiting. After dinner, he suggested a walk by the lake. I agreed. It was cold but calm. The water looked like glass. At the edge of the dock, he turned to me and said, "You know I love you, right?" froze. He hadn't said that in months. Of course, I said softly. He stepped closer, held my waist, looked me in the eyes. If something ever happened to us, if you ever did something, he paused. I don't know what I'd do. I couldn't handle that. It sounded like a threat wrapped in romance. Smiled. Nothing's happening to us, Nick. And then to test him I added, unless there's something you want to tell me. His eyes flickered. Like what? Shrugged. I don't know. Secrets, mistakes, little lies. He laughed. Nervous. You're acting weird, he said. Am I? I tilted my head. He kissed me. Harder than usual, like he was trying to shut me up. We went inside. He opened another bottle of wine. I watched him closely. When I went to the bathroom, I poured my glass down the drain, refilled it with water, came back smiling. He drank. I didn't. That night I pretended to fall asleep. Waited until his breathing deepened. Then I got up. I took his phone from the nightstand, unlocked it with Face ID while he slept, went straight to his hidden album. There they were. Photos. Hotel room. Car selfies. Video. I sent them to myself. Then I went to his messages. Scrolled through code names. One was labeled Elliot. Tapped it. It was Kendra. I screen recorded the conversation. Weeks of messages. Plans. Mocking me. Then I went back to bed. Laid next to him. Looked at his face. He looked so peaceful. So harmless. But in a few days, he'd learn the cost of playing God with someone else's trust. When we got home Sunday night, I said, let's throw a party. He looked confused. A party? Yeah, was. Just something small. Close friends. Your coworkers. A little celebration. He hesitated. What are we celebrating? He asked. Our love, I said. He smiled. It never occurred to him that the guest list would include someone very special. But that part, that's for later. For now I went back to planning. Because revenge isn't an action. It's a process. And I was just getting started. Planning the party wasn't about celebration. It was about exposure. Controlled. Precise. Devastating. Nick didn't question me much after I floated the idea. In fact, he seemed eager, flattered even. I told him it would be a cozy engagement-style event even though we weren't engaged. Played it like a joke. Just something for the people who love us. To remind them how solid we are. That line. How solid we are. He swallowed it whole. I gave him a job. You take care of drinks and music. I'll handle the invites. That was important. Because this was going to be my stage. And every actor needed to be cast perfectly. First I made a fake email. A throwaway account with a neutral name. carlag.events@gmail.com. So the message would sound professional, impersonal, and believable. I sent it to Kendra. Subject. Invitation. Private celebration at the Pines. Hello Kendra. You're invited to a private cocktail party hosted by Nicholas Weller. Taking place Saturday 8 p.m. at 4472 Pinewood Terrace. This is a private RSVP-only event. Casual chic attire. Your presence has been personally requested by the host. No mention of me. That was key. I made it sound like Nick was planning something behind my back, the way he had done with everything else. I even attached a calendar event with his name on it. I sat back and waited. 3 hours later, she replied. I'll be there, winky face. Course she would. I didn't RSVP anyone else until the next day. Friends, neighbors, his co-workers. Just enough people to make it seem like a real event, but not enough to make it crowded. 20 guests. No more. All carefully curated. I wanted everyone who knew him professionally and personally to witness the moment. The unveiling. I spent the rest of the week preparing. Not just the decorations and food, but the scene. I rearranged our living room. Moved the armchair he liked to sit in. Positioned the lighting. I installed one more hidden camera, one that could live stream. Not to a folder, but to a private YouTube link. Unlisted. Anonymous. scheduled to go live at 8:45 p.m. I called it Loyalty Test Live, the final phase. I edited the footage, cut down hours of recordings into a clean, tight 7-minute highlight reel. Him kissing her in the apartment, his text, their hotel. His little I love yous whispered when he thought no one could hear. I added background music, subtle, just enough to make the silence feel heavier. Then I placed it on a USB, gold-plated, elegant, and slipped it into an envelope. On the front I wrote, "Play me." The night of the party, everything looked perfect. Dimmed lights, white wine, candles, jazz in the background. I wore a sleek black dress, the one he once said made me look like someone who couldn't be lied to. Guests arrived slowly, laughing, chatting, hugging us both. I made rounds, smiled, greeted people by name. Nick played host, charming, affable, utterly unaware. At 8:35 p.m. the doorbell rang. I opened it myself. Kendra stood there in a red dress that tried too hard. Her eyes lit up when she saw me, then flickered with confusion. She was expecting to be alone with him, or at least to not see me. "Hi," I said sweetly. "You must be." She hesitated. "Kendra." "Of course you are." I smiled wider. "Come in. He's waiting." She stepped inside, shoulders stiff. Her eyes darted around the room. I saw the moment she registered Nick, laughing with coworkers near the bar cart. He turned and saw her. His face dropped just for a second. Then he recovered, walked toward us casually. But his eyes were screaming. "Kendra, you made it," he said a little too loudly. I stepped aside and let them hug. Or rather, let her hug him and him pretend it meant nothing. Gave them space. Watched the interaction from the mirror's reflection. He whispered something to her. She whispered something back. I couldn't hear, but I didn't need to. He was unraveling. And it was only 8:37. At 8:43 I clinked my glass. Everyone turned to look. "Hi everyone. I just want to say thank you so much for coming tonight. This evening means a lot to us, to me, and I've prepared something really special for the man I love." I turned to Nick. "I know you've been working so hard lately, that things have been complicated. So I wanted to give you a gift." He smiled nervously. His throat twitched. He didn't know where this was going. I reached into the drawer behind me and pulled out the envelope. I handed it to him. He looked at it like it might explode. "Go ahead," I said. "Play it for everyone." He hesitated, laughed awkwardly. "What's this?" "Just a little highlight reel of us." I handed him the remote. TV's ready. USBs plugged in. Everyone was watching. Friends, colleagues, he looked around, then at me. Then he pressed play. The TV screen lit up with a black screen. Then text appeared. Some people say love is loyalty. Others say love is what you do when no one is watching. Let's see what Nick thinks it is. Then the footage began. Silence in the room. It opened with him and Kendra entering our apartment. Their laughter. Her sitting on our couch. His hand on her thigh. The second clip, him saying, "She has no idea," laughing. Another, the hotel hallway. Their kiss. More, text messages. Voicemail. Her calling him Nicky. The phrase, "I love you," whispered while lying in our bed. I stood still. He didn't. He reached for the remote, tried to pause it. I stopped him. "Don't. This is your moment, Nick. Own it." The video kept playing. Kendra backed away. His co-workers stared. One muttered, "Is this real?" The room was silent except for the final line on screen. Loyalty isn't proven in words. It's exposed in silence. Then it ended. 7 minutes. That's all it took. The party was over. People started leaving, murmuring. Some didn't even say goodbye. Kendra was gone before the lights came back on. Nick stood there, breathless, red-faced. "Serena, what the hell? You were cheating on me, planning a fake prenup, lying to my face daily," I said, calm. "And you thought I wouldn't find out?" He stammered. "This is insane." You filmed me. That's illegal. I didn't post it publicly, I interrupted. Yet. He stared at me. I took a step closer. You didn't just cheat on me, Nick. You tried to use me, trap me, treat me like a backup plan. I'm not your footnote. He tried to grab the USB from the TV. I stopped him. I have copies. Everywhere. He went quiet. That night I packed a bag and left. Didn't slam the door. Didn't scream. Just walked out. I had what I needed. Revenge wasn't loud. It was a quiet, clean cut. And now, the real fun could begin. The night I walked out of that apartment, I didn't cry. I thought I might. I thought I'd collapse the second the door clicked behind me, that I'd feel a wave of grief or loss or emptiness. But there was nothing. No ache. No sadness. Just stillness. Like my soul had been holding its breath for months and was finally allowed to exhale. I got into the rideshare I had pre-scheduled before the party even began. That's the thing about revenge. It's not just about the moment. It's about preparation. Exit routes. Backup plans. Clean endings. I went straight to Tara's apartment. She opened the door, took one look at me, and without saying a word, handed me a glass of wine. She already had the guest bedroom made up, as if she knew this day was coming. Did you do it? She asked. I nodded once. And? He watched the whole thing. Tara smiled almost proudly. You're terrifying. In the best way. That night, I slept better than I had in months. The next morning I turned my phone on and found 14 missed calls from Nick. 3 voicemails. A wall of text. Serena, please talk to me. You blindsided me. This is crazy. We can fix this. Don't throw everything away. You really embarrassed me in front of my job. We were just going through a rough patch. I didn't respond. I archived every message into a folder titled Phase 6, Fallout. But I knew Nick. I knew silence wouldn't stop him. And I was right. He started sending flowers to Tara's place. Dozens. White lilies. Red roses. One day he sent a basket of all my favorite snacks. Ones I hadn't even told him I liked in years. Chocolate almonds. Pistachio macarons. Tara nearly threw it out the window. Do you want me to block him? She asked. No, I said. Why not? Because I want to watch him squirm. And squirm he did. He started posting on social media. Vague, cryptic captions with sad songs and sunset photos. Things like, sometimes we hurt the ones we love. If only I could turn back time. He made it look like I had left him for no reason. Like he was the victim. Classic Nick. But I stayed quiet. For now. One afternoon I opened my email and saw a message from Kendra. Subject line. We need to talk. Clicked it. Serena. Had no idea. I didn't know you were living together. I didn't know he was lying to both of us. I thought you'd broken up months ago. He told me you were just roommates. I swear I wouldn't have come near him if I knew. Please let me explain or at least hear your side. I'm so sorry. I sat there for a minute processing. Then I did something unexpected. I replied. Kendra, thanks for reaching out. I'm not angry at you. You were manipulated. So was I. If you're willing to talk in person, no drama, just honesty, I'm open to it. Serena. She replied within 5 minutes. We met at a coffee shop in the East Village. Neutral territory. She was nervous. Her lipstick was smudged and her coat still had a dry cleaning tag attached. She ordered a chamomile tea and barely touched it. First of all, she said, you're nothing like he described. I raised an eyebrow. How did he describe me? She hesitated. Cold. Controlling. Distant. That you treated him like a roommate. That you weren't intimate anymore. That he had to stay with you because of financial reasons. I almost laughed. Let me guess. You thought you were the exception. Her shoulders dropped. Yeah. We sat for over an hour. She told me how they met. At a networking mixer. How he lied about his relationship status. How he told her she was the first woman who made him feel alive again. Everything he had once said to me. I didn't hate her. In fact, I pitied her. She was just another chapter in his long book of manipulation. As we were about to leave, she reached into her bag. "I think you should see this," she said, handing me a small manila folder. Inside were printouts, screenshots of messages, voicemails, even photos of Nick with a third woman I didn't recognize. My blood ran cold. "He was seeing her before me," Kendra whispered. "We overlapped too. So it hadn't just been one betrayal. Had been layers. A web." She looked up at me, her eyes tired. "What are you going to do now?" I smiled faintly. "Finish what I started. Because revenge is never just about getting even. It's about closing the door with such finality. No one dares knock again." That night, I sat down with all the new evidence. I opened a fresh document on my laptop. Titled it, Final Act. Inside I started drafting an open letter. A detailed, chronological account of the relationship. No exaggeration. No drama. Just facts. Dated. Time-stamped. Supported by photos and video. The kind of document that destroys reputations quietly, from the inside. And at the top I wrote, "To the people who think they know Nick Weller. Here's the man behind the smile." I wasn't planning to post it. Not yet. But I had it. And that gave me peace. A week passed. Nick kept texting. Calling. Even showed up at my job once. Standing by the elevators like a ghost from a life I didn't want back. I walked right past him. Didn't flinch. He tried again at Tara's. Left a handwritten letter on the doorstep. She opened it and read it out loud. "Serena, I miss you. Not just your face or your voice. I miss the peace you brought into my life. I was stupid. Selfish. But I can be better. I want to be. With you." He still didn't get it. This wasn't about apologies. This was about consequences. So I sent him one last message. "I've gathered everything. The messages. The video. The voicemails. The witnesses. The hotel footage. I haven't released any of it publicly. But if you contact me again even once, I will. And you know what that will do to your career. Consider this your final warning. Goodbye. Serena." He didn't reply. He didn't need to. For the first time I had the last word. And I wasn't done yet. After I sent that final message, everything went quiet. No text. No calls. No unexpected knocks at the door. It was like Nick had vanished, or more likely was lying low, hoping I would cool off and forget. But I don't forget. Especially not betrayal. And while he stayed silent, I got busy. See, people like Nick operate on two things. Charm and perception. He didn't just care about being liked. He needed to be admired. Respected. He built his entire career on a facade of integrity. He coached corporate teams on ethical leadership for a living. That irony wasn't lost on me. So I decided it was time to burn the thing he cared about most. Not me. Not Kendra. His image. I didn't want to do it impulsively. I wanted it to be surgical. So I spent 2 weeks crafting the perfect packet. A digital portfolio of sorts. It included a timeline of his double and triple relationships. Screenshots of his messages to multiple women. Hotel receipts. Calendar overlaps. Audio from the hidden cameras. The things he didn't remember saying out loud. I blurred out anything that could make me look petty. No insults. No emotional rants. Just facts. And when I was done, I sent it to exactly 4 people. His manager at the consulting firm. The director of HR. His favorite client. The one who hired him to do monthly workshops on authentic team building. And finally, his mother. His mother. Because this wasn't just about exposing him professionally. It was about crumbling his support system, from the top down. The first reply came from HR. "We take these matters seriously. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. This information will remain confidential, and we'll be reviewing all attachments immediately." 24 hours later, I got a text from a blocked number. "You ruined my life." It was him. But he didn't dare use his real number again. Smiled. then blocked it too. Tara and I celebrated that night. We ordered sushi and watched old movies, laughing about how he used to brag about being too smart to get caught. Smart, she said, mouth full of spicy tuna. He got taken down by a USB and a Google document. But underneath the laughter I felt something else. Emptiness. Because revenge, while satisfying, is never the whole story. There's always something left behind. A scar. Silence. A part of you that doesn't come back the same. A week later, I opened my inbox and saw another message, this time from an unknown woman. Subject line. I think we have something in common. Opened it. Hey Serena. I hope you don't mind me reaching out. I just got out of a long-term relationship with someone named Nick Weller. I'm only writing because I stumbled on your private YouTube link through a friend. And I realized I wasn't the only one. I didn't know about you, or Kendra, or the others. But I'd like to talk. If you're open to that. Elise. I stared at the name for a long time. Elise. Not just another girl. First one. The one Kendra had shown me photos of. The one who came before both of us. The one he claimed cheated on him. Apparently that wasn't true either. We met the next day. Cafe downtown. No pressure. She was quiet at first. Blonde. Soft-spoken. But when she started talking, the floodgates opened. He told me he had trauma from his last girlfriend, she said. That's how he justified the secrecy. Said he wasn't ready for full commitment. That he wanted to build trust slowly. He nodded. He said the same to me. Right before he installed a second lock on our bedroom door, so I wouldn't come in while he was texting someone else. She winced. Together we pieced together the timeline. Elise had been with him for almost 2 years. Kendra overlapped the final 6 months. I came after Elise, or so I thought. But no. Turns out I was concurrent with both of them for at least 4 months. We were all the main girlfriend in his story. None of us knew the others existed. It wasn't just cheating. It was an ecosystem. A system built on lies so layered, so structured it could have been a business model. I don't want revenge, Elise said quietly. I just want to understand how I didn't see it. I wanted to hug her. But I also wanted to scream. Because the truth was, we all saw pieces. We just wanted to believe the better story. That night, I stayed up until 3 a.m. replaying every moment that didn't make sense before. The late-night meetings. The sudden trips. The gaslighting. And I realized something. Revenge isn't just about punishing the other person. It's about reclaiming your reality. Because when you've been lied to for long enough, the truth starts to sound like fiction, and the fiction becomes your life. That was the real crime. He didn't just cheat. He rewrote our stories without consent. And I wasn't going to let him keep the pen. The next day I created a website. Simple layout. Password protected. Just a black background and white text. No flashy links. No drama. The front page said, "For the women who've dated Nick Weller. If you're reading this, you're not alone. Let's compare timelines." Inside was a form. Anonymous. Just a few questions. How long did you date him? Did he ever mention the woman before you? What lies did he tell? Are you willing to talk to others? Within 3 days I had 11 entries. 11. Different cities. Different jobs. Different versions of the same man. I connected them privately with permission. Formed a group chat. Named it The Timeline Club. And in that chat something amazing happened. We didn't just vent. We healed. We laughed. We shared stories not of Nick but of ourselves. Who we were before him. What we loved. What we stopped doing because of him. What we were starting again. Yoga. Photography. Dancing barefoot in the kitchen. It was beautiful. And one night, while sipping wine on Tara's balcony, I got a message from Kendra. Just wanted to say thank you. You didn't have to include me in the group. But I'm glad you did. I thought I was alone. I'm not anymore. That was the moment I realized. The best revenge wasn't the party. Or the email. Or the exposure. The best revenge was freedom. and sharing it with the women who needed it most. By the time summer rolled around, I had almost forgotten how Nick used to look when he was angry. Until I saw him again. I wasn't expecting it. I was just running errands, carrying groceries, wearing sunglasses and headphones. I turned the corner near 5th and Main, and there he was, standing outside a cafe, hunched over his phone, talking to someone I didn't recognize. I froze for half a second. He didn't see me. And for the first time I didn't feel fear. Felt nothing. No flinch. No flash of heartbreak. Just distance. Like he belonged to another life entirely. But that calm only lasted until later that night, when Tara came rushing into the apartment holding her phone out like a weapon. "He's trying to sue you." I blinked. "What?" "Nick. Look." She shoved the screen in front of me. A thread of messages from a friend who worked in legal admin at his consulting firm. Apparently, Nick had filed a formal complaint, claiming I had defamed his character and deliberately sabotaged his career with fabricated materials. I stared at the screen for a long moment, not out of fear. Even after everything, he still couldn't take responsibility, still had to play the victim, still thought consequences were optional. But here's what Nick didn't know. I had anticipated this. I had everything backed up. Timestamp, witnesses, raw footage. I even had a digital chain of custody for every piece of media I shared. So I made a new file. Labeled it Pre-Litigation, Contingency Drop. Inside were folders named after the phases of our relationship, the women I'd spoken to, and every lie I could prove without a shadow of a doubt. But instead of sending it to his firm or his lawyer, I did something more effective. I sent it to him. With a single-line message. I kept receipts too. "You sure you want to do this?" Less than 20 minutes later, he blocked me. No lawsuit ever came. Instead, his firm placed him on indefinite leave. His HR manager sent me a follow-up email. "After reviewing all materials, we've decided to part ways with Mr. Weller effective immediately. We appreciate your cooperation." And just like that, he lost the one thing that had always protected him, status. Tara popped champagne. I sat quietly on the couch, watching the bubbles rise, feeling an unfamiliar sense of peace settle into my chest. But something still lingered. Not about Nick. About me. Because underneath the control and the planning and the clean execution of revenge, I hadn't really stopped to deal with the truth. I let myself be lied to. Over and over. Not because I was weak, but because I wanted the illusion of love more than the discomfort of honesty. And I needed to face that. So I did something harder than exposing Nick. I signed up for therapy. First, I was skeptical. I didn't want someone picking apart my choices like I was broken or gullible. But Dr. Lane, a 50-something woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, didn't do that. She listened. She let me tell the story in my own words. And when I paused, when I didn't know how to explain why I stayed, or why I trusted, or why I didn't see it coming, she simply said, "It's not your fault for being trusting. It's his fault for abusing that trust." She told me something else too. Revenge gives us power over them. Healing gives us power over ourselves. I didn't get it at first, but I started to. Slowly. I began waking up without checking my phone for retaliation. I stopped searching his name on LinkedIn. I unfollowed the women in the group chat, not out of spite, but because I needed to move forward without looking back. I even started journaling. Not about him, about me. Who I was before the lies. What I wanted now. And one night I wrote something that surprised me. I want to be known. Not admired. Not desired. Just known. All of me, even the messy parts. That's when it hit me. I had spent years being the perfect girlfriend. The dependable one. Chill one. The accommodating one. I made myself small, digestible so that someone like Nick could feel big. But I wasn't small. And I wasn't here to make space for someone else's ego. I wanted my own space. My own story. That summer I started a podcast. Not about him. Not directly. It was called Hidden in Plain Sight. Each episode was anonymous. Real women. Real stories. About the things we miss, the signs we ignore, the lies we swallow because we're afraid of what happens when we don't. Started small, a few hundred listeners, then a few thousand, then one episode went viral. Not because it named names but because it touched a nerve. The night I realized I was dating a mirror, not a man. Emails started pouring in. Women, non-binary folks, all telling me how they finally saw themselves in someone else's pain. It was beautiful and healing. One message said, "You made me feel less stupid for not walking away sooner. Thank you." Another read, "This podcast saved my life. I thought I was the only one." And that's when I knew. Nick Weller was a chapter, but I was the author. This was my story now, not his. Fall arrived quietly that year. The air turned crisp. Leaves painted the sidewalks in shades of rust and gold. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I noticed it. The world. The quiet beauty of things that had nothing to do with betrayal or secrets or revenge. I had survived the worst of it. But healing isn't a destination. It's a rhythm. A choice you make over and over again, even on the days it hurts to breathe. And then something unexpected happened. Someone reached out to me. Not a stranger, not another ex of Nick's. It was his sister. I hadn't spoken to Julia in over a year. We were never especially close, but she was kind to me during the early days of Nick and me. We used to talk about books, film scores, obscure indie coffee blends. She had a quiet sharpness, a watchfulness I didn't understand back then. Her message came through Instagram. "Hey Serena. Hope you're okay. I've stayed silent for a long time, but I think it's time I told you something." I stared at the message for hours before responding. We agreed to meet at a small cafe in Brooklyn, not far from where she lived. It was chilly that day. I wore my gray sweater and brought a journal, just in case I needed something to hold. She looked the same. Serious eyes. Slightly nervous smile. We didn't hug. She ordered tea. I ordered coffee. And then she spoke. "I knew what Nick was like," she said softly. "Not everything, but enough." I didn't interrupt. She went on. "When I was 16, I caught him cheating on his high school girlfriend. Told our parents. They brushed it off. Said teenage boys make mistakes. But it didn't stop. The lies, the triangulation. It just got smarter." I swallowed hard. "So why didn't you say anything to me back then?" She sighed. "Because by the time you came into the picture I had stopped trying. He always found a way to spin it. Make it about them. About me. He would say I was jealous, bitter, or just too sensitive." That sounded familiar. "I wasn't trying to protect him," she added. "I was surviving him." It was the first time someone who shared his blood admitted it out loud. Not as a warning, but as a wound. I let her speak. And then I told her everything: the cameras, the affair, the fallout, the group chat, the podcast, the emails, the therapy. She listened. No defensiveness. No shock. Just quiet understanding. When I finished, she said, "You know, I think you were the first person he ever actually feared." I blinked. "Feared?" She nodded. "Not physically, but emotionally. You saw through him. That scared him. Men like Nick. They don't know what to do when someone sees all of them." We sat in silence after that. Long one. But it wasn't uncomfortable. It was shared. As if both of us were carrying the same old ghost, just with different scars. When we said goodbye, she hugged me. And this time I hugged back. Felt like closure. Not the cinematic kind, but the real, quiet kind. The kind that feels like a door gently clicking shut with no need to slam. Later that week, I recorded a special episode for the podcast. I didn't name names, but I told a story. About patterns. About silence. About the people who don't speak up. Not because they don't care, but because no one listened when they did. I said, some families protect the liar, not the truth teller. Until one day, the truth walks out the front door, with her head held high. That episode became the most shared one yet. And among the flood of responses, one stood out. It was from a man. His message read, I listened to your podcast out of curiosity. Stayed for the honesty. I've never cheated, but I've manipulated people. Ghosted them. Led them on. I never saw it as abuse. Just dating. You helped me realize I was treating women like options, not humans. I'm in therapy now. Thank you for holding a mirror up. I reread it 3 times. Because it wasn't just a win for me. It was proof that truth, when told bravely, ripples outward, changing more than the person who speaks it. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Pride. Not the petty kind. Not vengeance disguised as justice. But the kind that sits deep in your chest. The kind that says, you didn't let them break you. You built something from the wreckage. And it's only just beginning. Winter came early that year. The city felt quieter than usual. Colder. The kind of cold that made your breath visible and your thoughts sharper. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't dread the silence. I didn't feel haunted by it. Felt still. Not numb. Just finally deeply still. I spent most mornings at my desk, wrapped in a blanket, with tea steaming beside my laptop. The podcast was growing. I had interviews lined up with therapists, trauma specialists, and even a few anonymous guests who had once been the Nick in someone else's story. They wanted to come clean, and somehow they chose me as the space to do it. I had built something real, and it was changing people. But as the audience grew, so did the reach. And one morning while checking my email, I saw a subject line that made my stomach twist. Hello, Serena, from someone who knew him before you. I hesitated, then opened it. Hi, Serena. You don't know me. I dated Nick in college, back when he was still figuring out who he could get away with being. I listened to your podcast after a friend sent it to me. I recognized him right away, even without you naming him. I want you to know something. He's been like this for decades, but no one ever talked about it. Or when we did, people said, you're overreacting. He's just charismatic. I wasn't brave enough to speak publicly. But I'm glad you were. You didn't just survive him. You ended the cycle. Thank you. Well, I sat there, rereading it with trembling hands. There was something eerie about knowing how far back the lies went, how many women had been caught in his orbit. But there was something beautiful too. Because the silence wasn't winning anymore. The pattern was breaking. And I had become the knife. Tara and I celebrated over hot chocolate that night. She curled up on the couch beside me, flipping through submissions from our new podcast segment. Anonymous confessions about self-respect, relapses, regret, recovery. We should call it What I Wish I Said, she mused. Smiled. Or maybe just, now I know. We both laughed. And then we grew quiet. You've changed, she said softly. I looked over at her. How? You're lighter. Not soft, you're still sharp as hell. But you stopped bracing for impact. It's like your body finally believes you're safe. I didn't say anything for a long time. 'Cause she was right. When you live under the thumb of manipulation, even after it ends, your nervous system doesn't forget. Keeps flinching. Keeps scanning rooms. Keeps expecting betrayal. But eventually, if you do the work, it learns to exhale. I was learning. I was breathing again. The next morning I got another message, this one through the podcast website. No name. No signature. Just this. You were never supposed to be strong enough to tell the truth. I underestimated you. You won't hear from me again. It didn't say Nick. But I knew. And for the first time I didn't feel afraid. I felt sorry for him. Because in the end, he lost more than a career or a reputation or a group of women who once loved him. He lost the illusion of control. And people like him, they don't survive well without it. I didn't respond. I didn't screenshot it. I didn't share it. I just sat with it for a moment, then closed the tab, and opened a new one. Travel site. Because somewhere deep in my bones, I knew it was time. Time to leave the city for a while. Not because I was running away, but because I was finally free to go. 2 weeks later, I was sitting on a plane bound for Lisbon. Just me, a carry-on, and a heart full of scar tissue and stories. The first night there, I sat on a balcony overlooking the ocean and I cried. Not because I was broken, but because I was whole. No longer stuck in survival mode. No longer measuring my worth by someone else's approval. No longer wondering if I was crazy for feeling what I felt. I watched the waves and whispered to no one in particular. You did it. You made it out. That night I slept without dreams. The next morning I woke up to a voice memo from Tara. She'd added it to our shared audio journal, a project we'd started to document what healing actually sounds like. Hey S, just wanted to remind you, you're not the girl who got hurt anymore. You're the woman who turned hurt into fire. Keep burning. In the best way. Played it 3 times. Then I pressed record and whispered back. I'm not done. The fire's just getting started. Lisbon was supposed to be a short reset. 2 weeks of good food, warm sun, quiet streets, and time to think. But something happened when I got there. I realized I didn't want to go back. Not to New York. Not to the same blocks, the same cafes, the same apartment walls that knew all my secrets. I didn't want to measure progress by how close I was to my old life. I wanted a new one. So I extended the trip. Then again. And again. Before I knew it, I had found a small apartment in a pastel building with a crooked mailbox and a balcony covered in ivy. The landlord was an older woman who spoke little English but offered me lemon cake the day I moved in. We didn't need many words. Peace doesn't speak loudly. Hums. I recorded the podcast from that tiny apartment for months. Stories came in from all over the world. Survivors, truth-tellers, reformed manipulators, people still healing in silence but listening anyway. And somehow, I became the voice in their headphones reminding them they weren't alone. One night, I recorded a solo episode. I didn't plan it. Just spoke. You might think revenge was the heart of my story. But it wasn't. The real story was about reclaiming my voice. Revenge was just the match. What came after was the fire. And that fire made light. If you're listening to this right now, and you're still stuck in a story that makes you small, let me be the first to tell you, you don't owe anyone your silence. Even if your voice shakes, even if no one believes you at first, speak because you believe you. That's enough. I cried after I hit upload. Not because I was sad. 'Cause I was done. That episode got more plays than anything I'd ever made. I got messages from people I'd never met. Teachers, nurses, mothers, even a retired judge who said, I wish I had heard this story 20 years ago. It would have changed how I listened to women in court. Every message felt like a thread. We were weaving something bigger than all of us. A net strong enough to catch the ones still falling. And then one morning I got an email from a publishing house. They wanted to turn the podcast into a book. I sat on the floor of my Lisbon apartment, staring at the screen, laughing through tears. Not because I needed to be famous or celebrated, but because the world was finally willing to listen. Serena Weller, the girl who once planted cameras in her own home just to prove she wasn't crazy, was now writing a book about survival, truth, and power. But before I said yes to anything, I took one last walk down to the ocean. It was early. Sky still pink. Waves soft. I stood there and said goodbye. To the girl I used to be. The one who doubted herself. Who waited for texts that never came. Who thought being loved meant being quiet. Who stayed longer than she should have. Who swallowed pain with a smile. She did her best. But I'm not her anymore. I'm the woman who told the story. And now, I'm handing the mic to you. To anyone listening who needs to feel what I felt. The moment I finally realized that I wasn't asking for too much. I was just asking the wrong person. So here's what I want you to do. If my story meant something to you. If you've ever been silenced, doubted, gaslit, or underestimated, but you kept going anyway, then join me. Subscribe to this channel. Turn on notifications. And share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Because this isn't just a story about revenge. It's about returning to yourself. And if you're ready, welcome home.